Well, welcome to the Tabernacle. I hope you enjoy your stay here, and you're welcome now to come into the chapel.
I think if someone said today that Tabernacle was going to close and the building was going to be knocked down, I'd like to think there would be some sort of national uproar.
We're not wanting these buildings just to have up for sale signs on them or to crumble away. It's something that our children should be able to enjoy.
Whenever you go in Morriston, you can see the steeple. Where I live, I can see the steeple. And I think, oh, that's my chapel down there. And it gives you a bit of pride that it's still here after all these years, and all the people who've worshipped here and who have donated money for the upkeep of this chapel. It would be such a shame if it would just go to rack and ruin and just crumble.
Because their main feeling is that they've nurtured and loved this building for all these years. Some people have been here since they were children and they're in their 80s, and they want to know that it's okay, and they want to hand it over and know that it'll continue and it'll be okay. No.
Well, around the start of the 18th century, that's when things are beginning to develop around here, just perhaps further down the valley towards Swansea, where copper refining is taking place. Ships are bringing raw copper to Swansea because around Swansea are the other raw materials, the water, the coal, everything you need in bulk. Well, initially it was the copper industry that the Morris family were involved in. The coal mining on a small scale was around the area as well, small pits, but another sideline of his. As time went on, steel and tin plate became other industries as the copper industry faded away. So right up to about the 1950s, Morriston was one of the centres of the steel and tin plate industry. Well, Tabernacle was built about 150 years ago in 1872. By the 1870s, with the growth of Morriston and the demand for services through the medium of Welsh, Libanus was felt to be too small. And it wasn't just enough to build a larger replacement. You had key people being the major industrialists. Beyond the Morris family, you have the Daniel Edwards, who was responsible for the actual building of Tabernacle, but who was at the same time planning the building of the most modern steel and tin plate works in the world. This is suggested to be certainly the tallest in Wales, perhaps in Great Britain. But another industrialist, Richard Hughes, he came up with £1,000 of money in those days for that tower. The tower is there. Another man, industrialist John Jenkins, said, I'll provide the clock. We have a tower. The tower does cause us problems, but I'm sure they thought it was a great idea at the time. The whole point was these people didn't want to worship in the ritualized way of the Church of England and opted out. They were dissenters, and that was the word used to describe them.
Mor wag drylwyr yn ei dillad gwaith, a llwch y glo yn fwgwyd ar ei pryd. A wedyn ni, y sil ar lydd amdano'n dillad glân. Ac yn ei wyneb olau enaid gwew. A wrth gwrs, beth oedd y gweithwyr yn cael ar ôl cyrraedd, ar ôl dy mewn i'r goleuni yma? Wel, oedd y bregaeth yn bwysig, oedd llawer iawn o bethau addysgiadol yn y bregaeth, oedd rhyw fath o adloniant. yn y bregeth, achos oedd yn gallu eistedd nôl a clywed y pregethwr yn codi a gostwng I lais, yn rhoi diwinyddiaeth iddo fe, yn rhoi barddoniaeth, llenyddiaeth, yn goleuo'r meddwl, a dweud y gwir, yn rhoi addysg a diwylliant.
This seat here is my great-grandmother, where my great-grandmother sat. And when my granddaughter was made a member here, she was the 6th generation of our family to be made a member in this chapel. It was originally built to hold 1,400 people, but now we're down to members. If we have about 60 members on the book, we are very, very lucky. Of course, there's been the demise of the Welsh language hasn't helped any. Also, that people's disinterest in the Christian faith. People don't come to chapel and churches anymore. Not only do we suffer, but churches and chapels all over are suffering from the lack of interest. Right? Not only that, when this place was built, there were huge families here. Right? There was 8 coming from my grandmother's house, and that was a reasonably small family. There were families of 10, 12, 15 children. So imagine if you only had 100 families, the place was full.
My name's David Morgans. I'm a member of Tabernacle Chapel, but I've been a member of Tabernacle Choir since 1967. It's become much harder in recent years, as with most choirs, numbers are falling. When I first joined, I think there were like about 140 people singing in the choir. But over the years, that's dropped. We're between 50 and 60 singers now, which is still a good number. But you know, it's a constant battle to find new members and to keep the choir running.
If you go back to 1872-ish, when the building was opened, you're in pre-television, you're in pre-entertainment, you create your own entertainment times.
Well, I'm Robert Lloyd Evans. My father was a minister of Tabernacle from 1945 until 1967, I think, where he started the Aelwyd, the Welsh Youth Club in the vestry. And it was connection of young people coming together. Well, because there was no television in those eras. All the social activities were held in Tabernacle every day. For example, drama society, Bible society. There was a choir practice. There was Aelwyd, Band of Hope, literature society. There was something going on every night.
At one stage I was a secretary and then privileged to lead that branch, and we became quite a competitive group, and a lot of young people's social life turned around what Aelwyd Treforis did. And there are several little families around, not just here today, but other parts of Wales and Britain, where the couple met here in the Aelwyd. I wouldn't really say we got 100% success. Not all couples lasted the pace, but it was a social event, and weekends were maybe competing in an Eisteddfod or maybe going to a folk dance, Twmpath dance. It was a period where a lot of young people can look back on with a great deal of pleasure.
Mae'r ysgol Sul wedi bod yn llwyddiannus iawn a canoedd o blant wedi cael addysg yma.
3 branches of the Sunday school in Morriston, and then one in East Vaughan. And my mother took me along to the Sway Road one, and Carol, my wife's parents, or her mother, they went along there. We met in Sunday school. And funny enough, we got married in Tabernacle, and it was the first time the minister at the time had conducted a service a wedding service in Welsh, which we were really, really surprised, because you know it's a strong Welsh tradition in the chapel.
Come here, come here, come here, Alexander's ragtime band. That's right.
So it was a cultural hub. So much so that Tabernacle formed its own choir. At one stage it had its own orchestra. The choir itself presented annual concert, competed actively in the National Eisteddfod. So they were aspects that became very, very prominent because of the nature of the building. There were cultural societies here. The community, to a large extent, was influenced by the people who were ministers in this building. The first minister, he had a particular musical talent.
Oh yeah, the sound is tremendous. In fact, although you can see this magnificent organ, when this place is full and the congregation are singing, it can drown out the organ. There's so many people here.
Chi hefyd wedyn ni yn cael canu cynulleidfa fawr hyfryd, a wi bob amser wedi gwerthfawrogi hynny, organ gyda'r gorau yn y wlad, yn y byd falle, chi'n bod, organyddion arbennig, arweinyddion y gân, oedd yn ddawnus ac yn gallu tywys chi i fyd arall mewn ffordd.
This organ was commissioned just at the end of the First World War to commemorate those young men of this church who never returned. And it was designed by a very eminent English organist, and it cost a staggering £6,000. Now that, by today's reckoning, is £750,000. That's what it would cost to build an organ of this size and quality today. It has 2,310 pipes. Some of them are metal, some of them are wood. You can see some of the larger ones, not all of them, but the smaller ones, which represent the higher pitches, some are as small as cigarettes. And they're all arranged in rows, or like soldiers in ranks, inside these cases. And they make, of course, a wide variety of sounds. But the main purpose for which this organ was built was, of course, to accompany very large congregations in hymn singing. And, you know, on the times we've had BBC Songs of Praise here, for example, I've played, and it's quite thrilling to play this organ when this chapel is full of people singing, because it does actually cope with it, if you see what I'm saying. It's louder, the organ is loud enough to support the singing. So there's a very famous hymn tune which was written by a former choir master here, hymn tune Blaen Wern. It's known throughout the world. It's published, would you believe, in Tokyo, as well as in South America and all sorts of places. So perhaps I'll just play that now so that you can hear the sort of singing tone that the organ makes to accompany hymn singing.
That is something else. I can feel a tingle going down my spine now. It is really wonderful because the sound, the echo reverb in this chapel is wonderful. I remember singing in the Messiah here with the Tabernacle Choir. Oh wow, that was with an orchestra. That was the best. Oh, feeling the sound was superb.
It's incredible, actually. It always stuns me because Morriston has gone through phases, and people outside of the area often tend to look down on Morriston, which is a really sad state of affairs. But there is so much music going on here. I mean, just look at male voice choirs. The Morriston Orpheus, probably one of the most famous male voice choirs in the world. There's our choir, there's Morriston Ladies, there's the Phoenix Choir, another male voice choir. Singing in Tabernacle Chapel is absolutely a magical experience. There's a lot of wood there. The size of the building is incredible. The organ is great to sing along, and the shape of the gallery, because it curves round, we can hear each other really well. And then the sound travels out to the audience really well. It's just magical, you know. People, well, one big supporter of the choir described it as a religious experience, hearing the performance.
There've been many recordings here of songs of praise, and of course Dechrau Canu, Dechrau Canmol has been filmed here. Bryn Terfel has sang here, so he's put it on the map.
Y peth bwysig oedd wedi dylanwadu arna I oedd fod y parchedig Trebor Lloyd Evans wedi dod I Abertawe yn 1945, pan o'n I ryw 5 neu 6 oed. Datblygodd y pethau trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg. Fe ges I gyfle I fod yn rhan o hynny. Nad o'n I wedi mynd I ysgol Gymraeg, dysgus I Gymraeg yn y Babanod yn Ynys Tawe. Ac ar fan hyn ges I gyfle I ddefnyddio'r Gymraeg. Naill yn yr ysgol Sul, neu yn yr Oedfaon, neu yn yr Eilwyd. Ond mae fy nghyrstiadau I wedyn wedi bod trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg, a hynny wedi cael cyfle I ddatblygu yma yn y Tabernacle.
It was probably due to my background. It's a personal story really of how the Welsh school started, because I wasn't treated fairly in Martintry School, and the pronunciation of English wasn't correct, and I didn't have any hearing facilities at that time, because the National Health came on in 1949. So he started looking for the Welsh school in 1947. I was punished quite often in Martin Street for not pronouncing the English word correctly. So because of the unfairness of the language I spoke, he started the Welsh school in Swansea. And from then on, he's mushroomed to Welsh medium schools around Swansea.
What I do remember then is, as I got older, I was brought up during the time of the ministry of Reverend Trebor Lloyd Evans. His influence on the Welsh language was significant, and the way in which he developed the schools. And whilst I didn't have a chance to go to Lawn Last School as a pupil, I did end up being the head teacher there, which was a neat touch.
It's been a negative and a positive in a way. There have been some people that have viewed the language as a negative and felt that this wasn't a building for them. But there's also been a positive in terms of people that really want to learn Welsh or engage with Welsh culture, feeling that this is the place where it can happen.
Of course, yes, it is a Welsh-speaking chapel. It's for Welsh speakers generally, but we open now doors. We welcome anybody who would like to come in, and those who don't understand a word, they have a warm welcome, and our minister obviously includes some English, but we try and promote that as well, and hopefully I'll be able to resume my Welsh classes here so that people will have a chance of learning our language and therefore feel part of the congregation. Possibly we need to go down the road, as other Welsh chapels have, in having a bilingual service, say once a month or once every 2 months. That's something we need to discuss.
Old time religion.
It's a sensitive, kind of diplomatic way of working, really. So it is quite complicated and time-consuming, but it has to open up and be more flexible to survive. And that's what we did through 2019 and introduced new activities. There's so many features in here that it's grade one listed, so it's the highest listing in terms of conservation. Like I said, this particular space, it's a huge space. It would be fantastic to see it used for lots of different purposes, but there's a lot that can't be done in here or touched, so you've got to work with what you've got. So we've thought about if we're going to have more of a music programme here, how could we have bigger, like bands and things behind me in the layout that we have.
There aren't families coming to worship through the medium of Welsh anymore. Well, no, that's a sweeping statement. There aren't as many families coming to worship in the medium of Welsh as would be needed to secure the future of this congregation looking after the building. So we've got to find other ways of looking after the building, because I mean, I'm 82. I'm not the youngest. There are people younger than me, but more flating, more feeble than I am. And, you'll speak this afternoon to Gwyn. Gwyn's 88. Well, Gwyn's been here for years. And Gwyn knows this place like the back of his hand.
There's about 4 of us at any maintenance to do. We get together, we say, right, oh boys, we'll spend a couple of hours and we'll do this and we'll do that. I mean, when they were renovating this place some years ago, we used to meet, 4 of us used to meet every Monday morning, and we'd come here about 10 o'clock, and then we'd go away about 1 o'clock, and we'd say, right, well, today we'll paint the windows. Oh, okay, next week now we'll paint that wall. And that's how it went, and we went down for about 18 months doing that. The chandeliers, they're all on wires, held by wires and a pulley. And when the lights when the bulbs go, we generally leave it till about 3 or 4 bulbs go, and then we 3 of us will get, or 4 of us will get up there, and 2 will be on the winch in case it runs away. Obviously, we don't want to do it a Del Boy job, like all naughty boys, isn't it? Right, you're always looking for, where to go or what to do, what you shouldn't do. And one of the dares was to come up here. No, there's no steps there. Just walk straight in.
Wow.
And that hatch there takes you out onto the roof.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah. Climb up here and out and then walk along the roof.
Wow.
I don't do it anymore, mate.
No,
I don't do it I don't do it anymore.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was
Dwi'n dal I feddwl bod na obaith i'r dyfodol, dim ond bod ni rywsut yn gallu denu pobl ifanc.
Well, clearly the programme that we're now engaged on is designed to find a viable but also a relevant role for a building like this. And it means actually opening it up to the community with events that draw in people who've never been within these walls before. Well, it's either use it or lose it, isn't it?
I think it's changed, and I think that was, the development year that I call it, when we tried lots of things, it served lots of different purposes. It was to let people in the area know something was going on, to try activities to get people to come here, but it was also for the people that are attached to the building and the congregation to see different things happening, to witness it, to get involved in it, to see that it worked or didn't work, and then, to start to embrace the sort of use of the building opening up. It wasn't just a matter of me having the project, writing a business plan, getting the money in and just launching something. Everybody has to be not necessarily happy with it, but you know, sort of come along with it.
Through many dangerous toils and cares, we have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe this far, and grace will lead us home, and grace will lead us home.
Well, welcome along to Tabernacle Community Radio, and here we are in the business end. This is the studio, and more or less this is where everything happens.
Now known as Prince and the New Power Generation,
The
Gold
biggest hit
is
on the
one of
Motown record label, the Detroit Spinners, and It's a Shame, 2 tracks from 19...
Well, Tabernacle Community Radio is a really exciting project. I think it's because it's about reconnecting people again. So it's not about a load of people who want to be famous doing radio shows, but actually about wanting to bring community in to make sure that this really is about what's happening in Morriston. What we're wanting and what we've said from the very start is that it won't work if the community aren't involved. And it's about making sure that individuals, groups, projects, all the things that are happening in Morriston are celebrated and that people get a chance to hear about them.
This space was actually set up in 2019, but unfortunately it was a storeroom when we first came in here. And if you'd seen what it did look like, we thought, yeah, we'll have it, we don't mind, we like a challenge. And indeed, we were very, very grateful to Tabernacle for giving us this area for us to work in. And it's nice that we've now been able to shape it into something. There are more plans, and of course, when we come to broadcast as such, it'll be all internet-based, which means it'll go worldwide. Again, Tabernacle, it's, well, when you think of what's gone on here over the years, I mean, a lot of things have happened in this place, and it's really great for me, personally, to be part of this wonderful building, which was built many, many years ago. And it's just a place where I think it's just oozing creativity, because I've seen things happen here recently with the new cultural fusion projects and everything that's going on. And the Tabernacle project, which is now way underway, that is going to bring a completely different feel to the building and to the people as well. So for me, it's just great to be part of that and to see, obviously, new life coming back into the community of Morriston.
Once a week here and in another venue where we teach karate from ages 3 up. So we've got a wide sort of variety of ages, starting with 3 all the way up to mid-60s. I'm from Morriston originally, so my brother sort of put me on to the venue. I thought it's important sort of being from Morriston, sort of carry on sort of running out of a venue close to where I grew up.
I've been doing karate 3 years. My favourite thing about it is learning new techniques, and it makes me flexible. I could put my leg on my shoulder because of karate. It makes me more fit. What I like about it, that's nice and big, but lots of people can come in. It's nice to communicate with other people, even though they're in different schools. You can still be friends, and in different karate clubs too.
I feel very privileged to worship in such a beautiful cathedral of non-conformity, as has often been described. And we're a small congregation, really, but we do knit well together. I used to organise a knit and natter group once a month, and my ladies would be knitting all sorts of things for different projects for Swansea and for the rest of the world. So we're trying to get involved with people more, rather than just coming to a service on a Sunday.
If somebody goes ill, you ring them up, ask them how they are, and if you can help somebody, you will. You take part in the services. I help to maintain the chapel. I suppose it's been brought up in a family where the Christian faith was important. and even today. And unfortunately, about 6 years ago, I lost my son through cancer, and my faith was a big help then. I had something to lean on, something to lean on, and it did help me to get through it, and my wife as well.
I'n hoff o'n gilydd, i'n caru'n gilydd, dyna yw y neges yn dyfa. Dyw cariad yw, dyna yw'r canolbwynt.
Why do you want to rebuild a wall of a castle which goes way back, which hasn't even got a roof, when people have made an effort to preserve our current historical buildings? It's, 500 years' time, will people be looking at a space here? Well, my personal thoughts are that this building is such a significant building in Wales that it deserves to be looked after, and that whilst every effort will be made locally to try and preserve the building, the real way to secure its future is for organisations like Cadw, which is responsible for the Welsh heritage, taking responsibility not just for our historic past, but looking to preserve our historic present.
I wanted to express something, I wanted to find a phrase or something that would link to the congregation and make them feel part of it. So I was looking for a Welsh expression, an old Welsh expression, and I found one that meant something to me, and it was edrych ymlaen at gynnu tân ar hen aelwyd, which means looking forward to lighting a fire on an old hearth. And that was to try and express, this fantastic traditional old building, but, taking it forward with fire, with vibrancy, doing something that will really make it live for the future.
You raise me up. Song